Regrettably, the lack of reliable electricity has caused significant disruption to households and businesses, leading to massive losses of perishable commodities, among them milk and fruits, due to the failure of storage facilities such as coolers and fridges. Moreover, learning institutions and health facilities in the area have also been forced to rely on generators for their operations, which increases their operational costs. Madam Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Energy on the following matters. Number one, what measures has the government put in place to ensure that the residents of Masalani town and Ijara town have access to reliable electricity? Number two, does the government have plans to compensate affected businesses in Masalani town and Ijara town following massive losses of produce incurred, especially by vendors who sell perishable commodities? Number three, what plan is the government putting in place to install a power station in Masalani ward and Ijara to provide stable and reliable power connectivity in Masalani and Ijara wards, given the current and reliable connectivity is from Hola Town, Tana River County? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Next order. As we wait for the next order, let me take this opportunity to recognize the presence of Bavuni Secondary School from Bahati constituency in Nakuru, who are seated in the public gallery. And on my own behalf and that of the entire National Assembly, we welcome the students to the National Assembly. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, reduction of application period of a specified bill.
What's your point of order, Honorable Lyungi?
Madam Speaker, yesterday the chair of internal security gave responses to statements, but you did not give us time to react to the statements. So I wanted to be given the opportunity.
Because I think there was no one to respond to it, and I don't know if the chairperson is here now.
He has just walked back to the back office.
Okay, but you just raise what you wanted to raise, proceed on it.
Yeah,
I remember
Madam
I said I'd indulge you.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, the chair, Honorable Togos, gave a response to my statement on the circumstances that led to the death of Benjamin Mwaniki Kadengu. And Madam Speaker, I was not satisfied with the response because of the following reasons. Number one, part 2 of my question was not answered. Number 2, the suicide theory that was cooked is not acceptable. Number 3, the investigations has taken 6 months from the date of the death, and the IO says they are investigating and analyzing reports, and they are waiting for results from government chemists for 6 months. No arrests have been made. Family is not briefed and updated on the matter. I'm told the IO is very hostile to the family, and therefore, Madam Speaker, I request for the following. Number 1, there should be a family meeting for briefing between the county commissioner and the DCI. Number 2, we request for independent investigations from DCI headquarters, not the local DCI from OLA. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I request the chair to take up that matter. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. As I see that the chair had walked out, I think I'll ask the leader of majority to be able, or you're a member of the committee? What's your point of order?
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. My point of order is that I've just raised a statement which is very sensitive in terms of the Kenyan power, and I really wanted a commitment in terms of the number of days or number of weeks from the chairperson of the Committee of Energy or any member of that committee. Second, my other point of order is, Madam Speaker, I want to concur and follow what my colleague have said. Yesterday, we got a report from the chairperson for internal security on my statement I raised some 1 month ago on the missing of Haret Khalif and Abdurrahman on abduction. The statement that the chair of Committee for Internal Security raised, it was too general. I just request your guidance on that matter because the families of the 2 people missing in the Ijara constituency, they request either their people to be given when they are alive or when they are even not alive. So I request at least proper investigation, including multi-secretarial, multi-agency teams to be put in place so that we can get the feedback for the families that are affected. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As the chairperson of internal security is not here, but I think majority leader will ensure through the whip that that matter is raised, is taken to that committee, and also the Hansard records of what the members have raised, so that we will, at the next sitting, when he's present, we shall ask for a commitment from the chairperson of internal security. Thank you. What's your point of order, Honorable Farah? Okay.
Madam Speaker, I wish to add my voice to what the Honorable Member for Ijara has said. One of the biggest landmark, earth-shaking commitment we got from this government and our President, William Ruto, was that there's not going to be any more enforced disappearances, which was the hallmark of the previous government. Can we have the government, through, of course, the chair and everybody here, there are many people who are missing now, who have just been plugged out of the midst of their own homes, and we don't know where they are. We have no problem with the investigations. They could be criminals, they could not be criminals. But the reality of the matter is that we want them to be taken to court. The courts are very lenient. If you need more time for investigation, they'll give you 2 weeks, 1 month, even 2 months they can give you. And then we can know that our relatives, our family members are actually safe. Madam Speaker, there are in excess of 5 people right now in Garissa alone that cannot be accounted for in the last couple of months. And the families are pestering us on a daily basis and telling us where are our family members. So that is the seriousness with which we want the government, as well as the parliament and the committee, the relevant committees, to take this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's proceed with the order. There's a procedural motion by the chairperson, Appropriations Committee.
Thank you very much.
Back to order number 8.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 120, that this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, from 7 days to 1 day, Honorable Speaker. The justification for this, Honorable Speaker, is that, as members are aware, we are burning midnight oil to complete the processes ahead of us. Yesterday, members left here almost at midnight because we are trying to do justice to our country insofar as processing the supplementary estimates, the budget estimates for 24-25, the division of revenue bill, and all those associated motions, Honorable Speaker. And for that reason, as members are aware, during a period when we have a budget cycle like now, actually what happens is that IFMIS technically does not work because we could end up affecting changes, which then the IFMIS is also releasing funds on the other side. And for that reason, we need the country to operate properly, the treasury to operate properly, and the more the reason to hasten the conclusion of the supplementary estimates so that IFMIS can start working normally and so that the monies that we are appropriating in the supplementary can come out, and especially also so that we can be able to fast-track exchequer releases for critical areas like NGCDF and the others, Honorable Speaker. And I request Honorable Osoro, who is our very able whip, to second this motion.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I said yesterday, we have a limited time in this session, that we'll have sittings only this month, and early next month we'll again go for a short recess. And that then means that we've got to sacrifice in everything, including condensing what we consider vital so that we can be able to finish everything in time. And that is why this publication of the supplementary appropriation bill should be reduced at least from 7 to 1 day, so that again we can be able to dispense of the main budget for this financial year, Honorable Speaker. So for that reason, I beg to second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You have seconded? I didn't hear I beg to second. Let us proceed. Honorable members, I now propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Order 120, this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, from 7 days to 1 day. I think I can allow one contribution from Honorable Nyikal before.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the process we have is understood that we may have to move things faster, and therefore, to that extent, I support the change, the fast tracking of this. But, Madam Speaker, there's something we should take as a general principle. I know we are moving very fast, and even to the next item, the budget 2024 will move very fast. But I think it's an important principle that actually members get to know the document. This document has actually just arrived. I know it is exactly the same as the one we discussed yesterday, but you know that sometimes what you discussed yesterday may not be exactly the same. So I think in future, we need to actually give more time so that members can at least peruse. If something was changed from yesterday, how do we know? So I think that's an important part, but for this, I support.
Thank you. Honorable members, I now put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 120, this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, from 7 days to 1 day. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 9, the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the consolidated fund and their application towards the service of the year ending on the 30th June 2024, and to appropriate those sums for certain public services and purposes. Order number 10, the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, second reading.
The mover.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, that is the National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, the bill before us is, as Honorable Nyikal has put it, is exactly what we were debating yesterday, Honorable Speaker, and I do not need to belabor the point. The point is that, Honorable Speaker, that we are now having a supplementary tool. Generally speaking, it is for tidying up the government financials, and especially giving cognizance to the fact that we are crossing the year in June in a few days' time, and a lot has changed, and especially around interest rates, Honorable Speaker, and therefore we had to revise our CFS to reflect the current dynamics in the interest rates market and also in the exchange rate market, Honorable Speaker. And for that reason, we will be moving to the Committee of the Whole House, Honorable Speaker, so that members can get a chance to contribute even to the specifics, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I do not wish to belabor the point. All the points that we gave yesterday stands, that the appropriations that we are doing today is adding Kenya shillings 4 billion to fertilizer. It is adding, Honorable Speaker, some money to the security agencies, Honorable Speaker, it into flood mitigation and issues around supporting Kenyans who have been heavily affected by the vagaries of the weather and excessive rains. And Honorable Speaker, we are also getting this money from what I insinuated there before, from especially CFS, where we anticipate to pay lower than budgeted in the supplementary one interest rate for our financial obligations, both domestically and externally. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, also, it is the same appropriations bill that will be giving authority so that the bodyguards and drivers for the members of this House also get their fair deal of arrears that have been pending from January. As members know, these are members with their own families. They have their lives, whereas other civil servants are facilitated. The bodyguards and drivers in this House, Honorable Speaker, have not been receiving their dues due to the constraints of money, Honorable Speaker. And in appropriating this supplementary to Honorable Speaker, will be giving authority that they get their fair dues that are from January to date, among many other things that I talked about. Honorable Speaker, generally, this was just to put resources into where the Kenyans are, that is farmers. That is why there is fertilizer in the education sector, in the security sector, the core of any administration and government and state, Honorable Speaker. And without further ado, I wish to move and request the Honorable Mary Emase. I request the Honorable Mary Emase, who is the chairperson of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, to second this motion of the appropriations bill for the supplementary two. The Vice Chairperson.
I second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, be read a second time. Minority Leader, you may I'll give you a few minutes.
Whereas I agree, Honorable Speaker, that we need to put the question, I thank you for indulging me so that I can say one or two things. First and foremost, I want to commend the work of the Budget Committee in the last couple of weeks.
Chairperson, Budget, you're being addressed.
I don't know if he's listening to me. Members are hearing.
Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I wanted to say that I needed to commend the Budget and Appropriations Committee for the good work they have been able to do in the last couple of weeks. I can see my friend Babu Owino is there. I don't know who else is here. Members of the committee. Hey, Mwashaku himself, the chairman of the CPC. Honorable Atandi is there. Honorable Ruto Dinga, and many other members who have done an exceptional job in the last couple of weeks, trying to deal with very serious issues. First and foremost was the issue of mediation, then on the Division of Revenue Bill, and then they have dealt with the issue of the main estimates for the next financial year, and now they've been able to deal with this issue of supplementary estimates too. Honorable Speaker, as I commend the committee under the able chairmanship of my good friend, the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, let me say one thing. We have got a problem still with monies earmarked for political parties. Honorable Speaker, you will recall that in Supplementary Estimates 1, monies that had been budgeted for political parties funding was reduced from 1.4 billion shillings to a mere 600 million shillings. That is a reduction of a whopping 800 million shillings. The committee has attempted to remedy the anomaly by reinserting back some money, a paltry 200 million shillings, the committee of the budget. And I'm saying this because I'm aware that the parent committee of JLAC had not done justice to the political parties funding in their report to the budget committee. But that is now out under the bridge. The committee on budget and appropriations has made some positive steps by bringing back some money. But that is not enough, especially bearing in mind that none other than a court of law gave orders that that reduction in Supplementary Estimate 1 was unconstitutional, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to see a situation whereby this House continues to be bombarded with court orders on issues which are straightforward, Honorable Speaker. The political parties fund is a fund which is ring-fenced under the law. Under the law, Honorable Speaker. If we look at the Political Parties Act at section 23, 24, 25, it is clear. The political parties fund is 0.3% of the total national revenue, Honorable Speaker. In the same manner, the national government, the CDF fund is ring-fenced. The political parties fund is equally ring-fenced. Honorable Speaker, I want to plead that going forward, first and foremost, we need to ensure that in the new financial year, we put in place enough money. We budget for the political parties funding in accordance with the law. But having done so, once we do so, let us resist the temptation to reduce that money in the subsequent supplementary estimates, because it will be contrary to the law, Honorable Speaker. Political parties are the foundation of our multi-party democracy. Political parties, functioning political parties are the basis of our multi-party democracy under the Constitution. And we must work extremely hard and ensure as a House that we are not part of the forces that are being seen as negating the spirit of multi-party democracy, which is enshrined in the Constitution. I hope and pray as I conclude, that in the monies that have not been reinstated for the political parties funding are going to find their way in the main budget for the financial year 2024-2025. It is incumbent upon all of us to do so. Honorable Speaker, you know, sometimes people can argue, but let me tell you, the day you will kill political parties, and I can see Honorable David Ochieng, who is one of the political party leaders, is looking at me. Yes, Honorable Ochieng, you agree with me that political parties are critical institutions of governance, and they are institutions that we must strive to strengthen as a House. As a House, I want to. And you know, I am a proud member of the ODM party, Honorable Speaker. Not only a member, but a ranking member of the ODM party. And I am hoping that all of us who belong to various political parties will see the sense in ensuring that we protect those parties. The only way to do so is first by funding them adequately. Let me conclude again as I reiterate. Honorable Meli, please allow Honorable Nindi to listen to me. Let me conclude by reiterating what I said earlier on, that the Budget and Appropriations Committee is working under very difficult circumstances, trying to balance budgets under very, 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 very unfavorable fiscal environment. And I must commend them for the work that they have been doing. Let us continue to support this committee, which is what I would call the mother committee, in this House. And with those very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to support the appropriations bill for supplementary estimates 2. And I hope and trust that this is going to be the last time we are dealing with what is called supplementary 2. Going forward, let us do only one supplementary budget, if need be, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, and I support.
Thank you, honorable members. I now put the question that the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024 be read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill.
Point of order.
A bill for an act of parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the consolidated fund and the application towards the services of the year ending on the 30th June 2024 and to appropriate those sums for certain public services and purposes.
Before we proceed, I can see there's a point of order for the Deputy Leader.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you on this and allow me, Honorable Speaker, to just say one thing and thank the Honorable Leader of Minority for supporting the Appropriations Act. We want to thank you very, very sincerely on this, and that is the spirit of democracy, where you give and take. And you've raised a very important point. Political parties is the anchor of democracy in this country, and that anchor can never be destroyed. Because if we destroy political parties and the anchor for democracy in this country, then this country will have no direction. So I want to thank you. And it is very important, Honorable Speaker, that political parties must be funded. Because without properly funding of political parties, we will not have strong political parties that we can anchor our democracy and move forward as a country. Honorable Speaker, as I support the idea of having this money in the budget that has been returned to the budget, and that now political parties are going to be funded, it is imperative for political parties to ensure they put important structures to run political parties as they are supposed to be. But as the Honorable Wandai takes that trajectory and moves forward and supports the budget, I would also ask him to look at a budget has two phases. One, the incomes and the outflows. So as you support this, also support the revenue-raising measures so that we have enough money to fund the budget and to fund political parties. You cannot celebrate because we have budgeted for political parties and frown when it comes to revenue-raising measures. So, Honorable Speaker, I would like to put it on record so that, we want to have him on record that he supports the revenue-raising measures for this country so that we are able to fund political parties. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now we can move on.
Okay, thank you. Next order. Next order.
Order number 11, Committee of the Whole House.
Honorable members, the Honorable Wandai, the Honorable Yamita, take your seats. Take your seats. Members, let's take your seats so that we proceed with this very important matter this morning. Members, we are in the committee of the whole House to consider the appropriation bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024. It is a supplementary appropriation bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024. And we'll start with the schedules, then we'll go to the clauses because the schedules have an impact on the clauses. So we'll start with the first schedule.
First schedule.
I propose that the first schedule be the schedule of the bill. Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I wish to move that the first schedule be amended A in vote R1071 by deleting the figure 8,818,125,506 in column 3, supply, under the program 0717000, General Administration, Planning and Support Services, and substituting therefore the figure Kenya shillings 9,489,125,560. B, in vote R1071 by deleting the figure Kenya shillings 2,127,400,766 Kenya shillings in column 3, supply, under the program 0718000, Public Finance Management, and substituting therefore the figure Kenya shillings 386,400,766. C, in vote R1071 by deleting the figure Kenya shillings 74,040,000 in column 3, that is supply, under the program 0719000, Economic and Financial Policy Formulation and Management, and substituting therefore Kenya shillings, the figure Kenya shillings 124,040,000. D, in vote 1071 by deleting the figure Kenya shillings 1,686,784,580 in column 3, supply, in the education sector. It is exactly the same thing, realignment of the votes so that we do a tighter job. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. I propose a question, therefore, that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the chair. I now put the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many other opinions say aye? Will as many other opinions say nay? The ayes have it. That the second schedule as amended be the schedule of the bill. Will as many other opinions say aye? Will as many other opinions say nay? The ayes have it.
Clauses 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Members, I propose the question that clauses 2, 3, 4, and 5 be the clause of the bill. Be part of the bill. No amendments. I therefore put the question that clauses 2, 3, 4, and 5 be part of the bill. Will a member of that opinion say aye? Will a member of that opinion say nay? Ayes have it.
Title.
As I propose the question, that the title will be the title of the bill. Because I know how many members, I therefore put the question that the title will be the title of the bill. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Will as many of that opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Will as many of that opinion say nay? The ayes have it. You recall that the Honorable Majority Leader Ignatius dropped an amendment a few minutes ago,
I would like, before we finalize this process, to give a chance to the chairman of the Budget Committee to make a statement on that, what was dropped by the majority leader. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and I want to thank my brother and our leader, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, because we have had a discussion. The same vote that he was very concerned that it was not funded has been funded adequately. That is in regards to the recently concluded ADB Bank Group Conference. And just for the record, Honorable Chair, what we have done is to recommend an amendment to the Supplementary Appropriations Bill 2024, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024. Honorable Chair, at the vote R1071, there is an emerging need to settle the outstanding pending bill for the recently concluded African Development Bank Group Conference held at KICC. I recommend reallocation of item 1071001302, that is Public Sector Accounting Standards Board, Kenya shillings 240 million, and Kenya shillings 172 million from 1071000204, National Government Budget Process, 2630-100, current grants to government agencies and other levels of government budget reserve. The Honorable Chair, what you are basically doing is to transfer what I have read into the settlement of the pending bill accrued through the recently concluded African Development Bank Group Conference held at KICC to a tune of the same amount, Honorable Chair, of roughly 450 million Kenya shillings. And Honorable Chair, therefore, there is no change in the overall program. There is no change in the overall budget. It is also just part of the realignment as requested by the National Treasury.
Thank you, Chair. That, members, marks the end of the Committee of the Whole House. What is out of order now?
Chair, I just seek to be guided on. I know that from what I heard, it sounds like we actually having an amendment after you had actually go through. Would that be in order, or if that needed to be changed?
There's no amendment. He was just expressing his agreement with the amendment earlier dropped.
Or he was explaining what was earlier dropped
Correct.
by the leader of majority?
Correct.
Okay, thank
Correct.
you.
Honourable members, that marks the end of the Committee of the Whole House on the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, Bill number 32 of 2024. I therefore call upon the mover to move for reporting. Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Thank you, members. I therefore put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Will as many of that opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Chairperson, you may report.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Mover.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request the member for Kikuyu and the leader of majority, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to second and allow me, Honorable Speaker, to thank members for the devotion that they have shown. Despite this being a morning sitting on a Thursday, which is not usual, that members were here in time, and to also thank the members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee for their continued commitment in this work, as well as our very diligent staff from the Parliamentary Budget Office. Honorable Speaker, to take this opportunity to call on the National Treasury, because today is around the 6th of June, we have less than 24 working days or 24 days, calendar days, to the end of this financial year, to ensure that they have exchequer releases well ahead of time before the close of the financial year, so that the MDAs that have additional allocations that need to be expended within this financial year are expended, and especially so those that have pending bills, where Kenyans are suffering because of bills that have been pending for long. And I do notice there are quite a number of agencies that have been appropriated for resources for settlement of pending bills. Honorable Speaker, it is my plea that the National Treasury works with speed to ensure that the exchequer releases come out in time, so that all those Kenyans who have been waiting for the payments from government are able to receive their payments, and this money can recirculate back into the economy and help our country grow. With those remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second.
Honorable members, I propose the question that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable members, I now put the question that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover, to reply.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2024, be now read at that time. And Honorable Speaker, I also want to thank every member of this House for being very supportive throughout the process. Their insights have enriched the entire budget-making process, and especially in regards to Supplementary 2. I also want to thank all the departmental chairs. They have done a tremendous job within a very short time, and the memberships also of all departmental committees. I want to thank them, Honorable Speaker. I also want to thank the members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. They have been tirelessly working for the last 2.5 weeks, Honorable Chair. Some have actually never gone home because we have been working day and night to see this process complete. And when I see even Honorable Naisura, Honorable Chair, being bright today, I am wondering why, because she's supposed to be sleepy. She's been working throughout, and I wonder even when they get some rest. Honorable Chair, even our staff, I can see them here. Honorable Chair, starting from our clerk of the National Assembly, and also the Director of the Parliamentary Budget Office, Dr. Masinde. I can see Dan Kachumbo, they are donning a very presidential suite. And also I can see Dr. Abel and Julie. And Honorable Chair, just for members to note, they have been very pivotal. Julie and Abel and Honorable Chair, just for members to know, we were in the same university, Kenyatta University, with this great team. Honorable Chair, I wish to move and request the Honorable Honorable Murugara, George Murugara, to second this motion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Thank you very much, the Speaker of the National Assembly. Before I second, allow me to thank and commend the Chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, because he may not be able to thank himself for the incredible work he has done with the speed and dedication. Allow me also to thank the members of Parliament who have actually moved this with the speed it deserves. Let the government get their supplementary appropriations, and we as members of Parliament will retreat to this House to do our 3 cardinal duties, which are representation, oversight, and budgeting, so that as the government executes what we allocate to it, we are there to watch what is happening to public money that must be used prudently. With those remarks, I beg to second.
Honorable members, I propose the question that the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, be now read a third time. Honorable Mercia, what do you want to say?
Madam Speaker, may I also appreciate the work that the committee has done and the chair, but I also want to stress what the leader of majority said earlier, that the Treasury must make sure that there's exchequer release. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time for us to sit and pass supplementary budget and they don't release the exchequer. And number two, the MDAs, the agencies, the ministries who have asked for more money, to make sure that if the money is released, they spend it within the time that is remaining. And I actually would propose that agencies that get money and don't spend it actually be sanctioned later on. With that, Madam Speaker, I support.
Honorable members, I now put the question that the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 32 of 2024, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the consolidated fund and their application towards the service of the year ending the 30th June 2024, and to appropriate those sums for certain public services and purposes. Order number 12, motion, consideration of the budget estimates for the financial year 2024-2025, general debate, third and last allotted day.
Those members, yes, what is your point of order, Honorable Pukose?
Madam Speaker, most members had contributed this, and you remember we were here up to very late evening. May I ask that the mover be called upon to reply? Yes.
Is that the mood of the House?
Yes.
Okay, mover may reply. Hold on, Honorable Didi. Honorable members, I now put the question that the mover be called to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. So mover, you have now the authority.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I said in the beginning when we were moving this motion, for the benefit of members who are not here yesterday afternoon, first of all, I want to state that the budget that we have passed, Honorable Speaker, in conclusion of the second reading, is Kenya shillings 4,000,000,006. And Honorable Speaker, we have done something that has never happened in the entire budget making process in Kenya, in the recorded history, that this House passed the BPS level of the budget at Kenya shillings 4.18 trillion, Honorable Speaker. And because this House is prudent, Honorable Speaker, this House has now and will be approving a budget that is a climb down from 4.18 trillion as it was in the BPS to the current level of 4.006 trillion, Honorable Speaker. The essence of this is just to show prudence. Prudence that, yes, We are ambitious as a country in terms of setting the revenue targets, but this House is moderating the same optimism so that we come closer to the reality, and the reality is benchmarking with what has been recorded as revenue in the previous period, Honorable Speaker. And I say so because, Honorable Chair, in this current financial year, we are likely to have a shortfall of revenue collection, and it is because of that this House, Honorable Speaker, the National Treasury, and the Executive, we felt it is important that we make a budget that aligns with the realities of revenue collection. Honorable Speaker, I want to also hail two more things. One is that, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker, I want to say a few more things so that members can also appreciate. Honorable Speaker, in the year 2023, calendar year, this economy of Kenya grew by 5.6% in terms of GDP. And Honorable Speaker, that was ranking Kenya as among the 27th fastest growing economies in the world. Honorable Speaker, our inflation in the month of May was 5.1% year on year. Our inflation in the month of April was actually 5%, Honorable Speaker. Our benchmark target for inflation is 5% with a band of 2.5% either way. And therefore it means we are well within our benchmark as a country, Honorable Speaker, and that is commendable. Honorable Speaker, our currency has been gaining. From January to date, our local currency has gained over 15% against the greenback. It has also gained around 17% against the sterling pound. Our currency has also gained around 18% against most of the regional currencies. Honorable Speaker, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that this House, led by our leadership and all the members of this House, have been doing an incredible job in passing laws and in passing regulations that are in tandem with an economy that is thriving. Honorable Speaker, I want to cite out a few things as requested by you, Honorable Speaker. One is that we have been able to add Kenya shillings 10 billion into fertilizer subsidy. Fertilizer subsidy will go into making agriculture, and especially the farming part of agriculture, profitable for the Kenyan farmers. Honorable Speaker, out of the same intervention last financial year, we saw about a huge harvest, Honorable Speaker, where the harvest of maize in our country, Honorable Speaker, which is our staple food, grew from 45 million bags, which is average production every year, to 65 million bags, Honorable Speaker, just to show the fiscal intervention of providing subsidized fertilizer is paying off. So therefore, Honorable Speaker, we have allocated 10 million shillings into fertilizer subsidy. We have allocated Kenya shillings 2 billion into coffee cherry fund. We have allocated monies into sugar reforms to clear off the debt that is owed to sugarcane farmers out of the supply they have made in publicly owned factories, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Kenya, to a large extent, some areas need us to boost because we need Kenya to develop together. And in that respect, in this bill, Honorable Speaker, we have also proposed over 10 billion Kenya shillings into equalization fund. Honorable Speaker, the pastoralists of Kenya lost their livestock during the previous periods of famine. They have also lost their livestock during the previous periods of insecurity. And in that respect, we have input Kenya shillings 1 billion into restocking, into livestock restocking out of the pastoralists who lost their livelihoods. Honorable Speaker, we have also included monies for electrification in our constituencies. We have added, on top of the usual budget in the energy sector, we have also included Kenya shillings, and members need to hear this. We have included, on top of the usual budget, we have included 14.5 billion Kenya shillings, monies that will be divided equally among all the 290 constituencies for electrification of our villages and estates in the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, what we did in the narration of that vote, because we know there are some constituencies which has very high connectivity, but they also have other challenges around lighting. The narrative is that the Member of Parliament can actually propose either electrification projects or street lighting projects. The same will be done under the same 50 million Kenya shillings, Honorable Speaker, so that we continue to grow our nation in across all areas, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I come to the conclusion, we have added monies to NGCDF, as members can see, from 53 billion in this current financial year to 62.9 billion Kenya shillings. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, the parents of Kenya are going to get much more in bursaries. We are going to get much more in infrastructure in our education sector. We are going to get much more boosted infrastructure in our security sector, which is the domain of NGCDF. We have also added fresh monies, fresh money that was not there before. Monies for GAF, Honorable Speaker. We have added 500 million Kenya shillings, monies that will go into boosting the kitty that does a lot of things, and especially social interventions in our counties. Honorable Speaker, the list is endless. It is wrong. But I want to assure the Kenyan people that we have made a budget that will respond to the needs of the Kenyan people, the needs of our economy, and I see an economy that will grow into bounds as we implement this budget. With those many remarks, Honorable Chair, I beg to reply.
Honourable members, I think this marks the end of a very eventful period, in my opinion. I therefore proceed to put the question that this House adopt the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on its consideration of the estimates of revenue and expenditure and the medium term for the financial year 2024-2025, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, the 5th of June 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 221 of the Constitution, Section 39 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and Standing Order number 239, 1, this House approves the issuance of the sum of Kenya shillings 2,392,832,508,617 from the Consolidated Fund to meet the expenditure during the year ending 30th June 2025 in respect of the votes contained in the first schedule, subject to paragraph 3, that is the Committee of Supply. Number 2, this House makes the policy and financial resolutions as contained in the second schedule to the order paper. And 3, this House orders that the Speaker do now leave the chair to facilitate the consideration of the said budget estimates with respect to each vote and program in the Committee of Supply as contemplated under Standing Order number 240 in terms of consideration of estimates in the Committee of Supply. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. We will as many of the opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 13, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bill number 67 of 2023, second reading, resumption of debate.
Then Obaya, you're actually still moving this particular bill. So go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I continue moving the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2023, National Assembly Bill number 67 of 2023. Honorable Speaker, as you may be aware, in keeping with the practice of making various amendments that do not merit the publication of separate bills and consolidating them into one bill, that is why we have this Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2023. Honorable Speaker, in this bill, if I may just recap, Honorable Speaker, we talked about the Children's Act, which is part of the amendments. We are also amending the Copyright Act, which we already talked about. We also have in it the Scrap Metal Act of 2015, and we are also amending the National Employment Authority Act of 2016, and Honorable Speaker, the Fisheries Management Development Act of number 35 of 2016. Honorable Speaker, now I'd like to move on and continue. And Honorable Speaker, if you can allow me, and ask the Honorable Dindi Nyoro, whom we listened in silence when he was moving,
Order, members.
accord the leadership.
The members who want to congratulate Honorable Dindi Nyoro can do so at some other time or in low tones.
Yes, Dindi Nyoro, we gave you time to
The
move.
Honorable Bayer will be listened to in silence.
Yeah, Dindi Nyoro, we gave you time to move.
Honorable Bayer, this is your chance now. It's not
Give
for you to do
others
that.
a chance.
Go
So,
ahead.
Honorable Speaker, in this amendment bill, miscellaneous amendment bill, Honorable Speaker, we are also amending the Energy Act of 2019, number 1 of 2019. Honorable Speaker, the bill proposes to give effect to the recommendations of the Presidential Task Force on the review of power purchase agreements. You remember in this House, the Honorable Women Rep for Laikipia tabled a motion to request that there be changes in the power purchase agreements, the PPAs, Honorable Speaker. And this bill, therefore, has such in response to the request. One, addressing the overlap in functions between the Energy Petroleum Regulatory Authority and the Ministry of Energy. Secondly, to include Kenya Power and Lighting Company in the membership of the Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation established under the Act. 3, and very significant, winding up the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, NUPEA, and transferring all its functions to the ministry. Honorable Speaker, this is a very significant move by government to ensure that NUPEA now does not exist anymore, that NUPEA now moves to be just a department within the Ministry of Energy. And that's a significant thing that is happening, given that NUPEA has actually caused a lot of issues and problems in my constituency. I'm happy that now it becomes only a small department in the ministry. 4, subject the making of regulations to the attainment by the grid of the quality and reliability of supply and services prescribed by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority to allow for the compensation of consumers for power outage. This is very important, Honorable Speaker. Significantly, that we'll have now regulations to allow for compensation of consumers for power outages when the country achieves number 1 grid reliability status. So that when there's an outage, there's compensation. Right now, when outage happens, nothing happens. But it is subject to the fact that when we achieve number 1 grid reliability status. Honorable Speaker, we move again to the Public-Private Partnership Act of 2021. That is number 14 of 2021. The miscellaneous amendment bill, Honorable Speaker, amends this. The purpose for the amendment of this act, Honorable Speaker, is to correct typographical errors and cross-referencing errors contained in the bill and to align provisions with each other to ensure consistency, thus lending clarity to legislative interpretation. Honorable Speaker, I think we have had issues with this bill because in this bill there are several errors. Then there's also a problem of cross-referencing, and therefore interpreting this law has been a problem. And therefore this House is being called upon to ensure that we correct those errors, the typographical, the cross-referencing, so that we are able to properly interpret this bill. Any errors within a bill may be interpreted differently by other people. So we have an opportunity, Honorable Speaker, as we support this bill to correct those errors. Honorable Speaker, again, in this bill, we have the Parliamentary Services Act, very significant, and I think members of this House will be interested to know what kind of amendments are being made in this Parliamentary Service Act of 2019. Honorable members, this bill is for Parliament, and very significantly so, Honorable Speaker, this bill seeks to provide that Commission shall be responsible for performing functions necessary for the well-being of the members and staff of Parliament. And it includes one very important and significant matter, Honorable Speaker, that affects members that sit in this House. That is setting the mileage reimbursement rates. You know, initially, the mileage reimbursement rates have been set by the Ministry of Transport and CSRC and other bodies. But we are bringing back this function to the Parliamentary Service Commission, such that the Parliamentary Service Commission, Mr. Speaker, will now set the mileage reimbursement rates, and other facilitations relating to the mandate of the state officers in Parliament. So I ask honorable members to ensure that when we come to third reading, they support this amendment for the welfare of the members of this House. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, we have amendments within the Judicial Service Act of 2021, number 1 of 2011. That is the Judicial Service Act of 2011. Honorable Speaker, the proposal in this amendment seeks to provide that the Judicial Service Commission shall be responsible for performing functions necessary for the well-being of judges, judicial officers, and staff of the judiciary, including transport facilitation and the rates of daily subsistence costs. Honorable Speaker, I think it has been noted and agreed upon that the JSC should now look at transport facilitation and rates of daily subsistence, something that the Salaries and Remuneration Commission had taken away. But I think we want to restore this, bring it back to the judiciary, taking note that actually the Parliamentary Service Commission, the amendment I have talked about in the Parliamentary Services Act and the amendment in the Judicial Service Act, taking into consideration that under Article 127 and Article 172 of the Constitution, these two bodies are independent constitutions, and therefore they should be allowed to function as independent institutions without necessarily having to have interference from SRC, who always want to interpret Article 230, Sub-Article 4 of the Constitution to say that the mandate to facilitate Parliament and to facilitate the Judicial Service Commission is in them. But this amendment will bring back the powers both to the Judicial Service Commission and Parliamentary Service Commission to actually set the limits and rates for the transportation allowances for the two independent bodies, that is Parliament and JSC. So, Honorable Speaker, these are important amendments. Again, Honorable Speaker, I think the Supreme Court also made a pronouncement and found that Article 203 must be read alongside other provisions that provide the same powers to the PSC and JSC. The proposal is thus timely, merited, and seeks to address the constant conflict with SRC. Honorable Speaker, every time we have conflict with SRC, because SRC wants to set limits for Parliament, it wants to set limits for the Judicial Service Commission, but these amendments that we are bringing here, Honorable Speaker, under this statute amendment law, Honorable Speaker, will give these two houses, these two bodies, an opportunity to run away from the conflict with the SRC all the time. Honorable Speaker, it is my pleasure at this moment to request members of this August House, including the Honorable Dindi Nyoro, the Honorable GK, and the Honorable Farah Maalim, to ensure that they support this motion, even when they have not been listening to this very important debate. And we need to teach this, Honorable Farah need to teach Honorable Dindi Nyoro, who is a young man, that he needs to be listening in Parliament.
I would like to know what Dindi did to you this morning. Don't Dindi, you need to return his belt.
He needs to listen to others when they are tabling matters, because we listen to him. Farah Maalim, teach Dindi Nyoro to be listening, and he should stop distracting him. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to request the Honorable Leader of Majority, the eminent person that we have in this House, the lion who roars and everything happens, to support, to second this bill and provide direction on how we move as a House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and Honorable Leader, we welcome to second.
Thank you so much. And members, I hope you notice what's happening this morning, that chairs can actually allow their deputies to move motions and second them. Then Majilda, go ahead and second this particular bill.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And as I rise to second, it is indeed true that chairs, it's part of the mentorship, Honorable Speaker. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, even this morning, my very able deputy has moved this bill on my behalf, and I am very much available to second him. And this should be the spirit even for our chairs of committees, not just their vice chairs. even the rank and file of the committee membership, it is good to allow them to move bills and motions. So that is the only way even our new members will learn what happens in the House, Honorable Speaker. So that in the next parliament or later, within the session of this parliament, one doesn't become a chair and can't even move a bill. And you have seen it, Honorable Speaker, chairs of committees standing up and they do not have no idea on how to move a bill, how to move a motion.
These are your chairs. These are your chairs. So do the needful.
It probably also speaks volumes, Honorable Speaker, to the kind of induction that we do. And maybe the chair of the Liaison Committee, our very able Deputy Speaker, should consider another round of induction of the chairs. But Honorable Speaker, in seconding this motion, Honorable Speaker, as the Honorable Owen has very ably articulated all the acts of Parliament that are being touched by this miscellaneous amendment bill, including the Children's Act, the Copyright Act, the Scrap Metal Act, the National Employment Authority Act, the Fisheries Management and Development Act of 2016, the Energy Act, the PPP Act, or rather the Public-Private Partnerships Act of 2021, the Parliamentary Service Act of 2019, and the Judicial Service Act of 2011. And Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, all our statute law miscellaneous amendments bills, and without the exception of this one, are usually to realign our laws or existing statutes with minor amendments that may not necessarily need a substantive bill to be published to amend. And Honorable Speaker, this bill is no exception. As I said, if you look at the amendments on the Children's Act, Honorable Speaker, this is basically aligning the act to a court ruling. Honorable Speaker, you know the Children's Act of 2022 had a provision that denied sole male applicants from adopting a child unless that child was your relative, Honorable Speaker. And the courts have ruled that that was unconstitutional, and therefore that particular amendment is simply aligning with what the courts have ruled. Honorable Speaker, on the Copyright Act, as the Honorable Owen Bayer ably articulated, is touching on the provisions for equitable remuneration of our performers and producers of sound recordings, and also expanding the responsibilities of collective management organizations towards authors and performers. This, Honorable Speaker, is to ensure that our content creators, our performers and producers of sound recordings are properly remunerated, and the management organizations that run these things are not collecting money and administering that money in a way that disadvantages the producers of the sound recordings and performers. Honorable Speaker, on the Scrap Metal Act, as again was ably articulated by my deputy, this proposes to amend the Scrap Metal Act to provide for a special license for dealing in copper, aluminium, and their alloys. And Honorable Speaker, members including the Honorable Farah and the Honorable Member for Kieni, the Honorable Shieni, who represents the people of Kieni, and the Honorable Farah, who is our Deputy Speaker. And he's always, when he's on the seat, is shouting order. Affirming order in the House. But surprisingly, when he's not on the seat, he's behaving in a manner likely to be described as disorderly. I was attracting the attention, Honorable Speaker, so that they may listen, because the Honorable Farah's constituents have a problem with power on the grid, and that he knows. And part of the problems have emanated from people vandalizing transformers, vandalizing lines on the grid because they are looking for aluminium, others are looking for copper or copper and aluminium alloys. And therefore, we want to have a special license so that if you deal with copper and aluminium to stem the rising cases of vandalism of transformers and other state or public infrastructure, Honorable Speaker, you will see even aluminium guardrails on our roads that are there to secure us on the roads in case of accidents, Honorable Speaker. People vandalize these things and go and smelt for a song things that are public infrastructure, Honorable Speaker. And you remember when the former President Uhuru Kenyatta was commissioning the SGR Phase 2 You remember him swearing in God's name that he will cite the execution of anybody who vandalizes that line. But you will be surprised, Honorable Speaker, parts of that line are still being vandalized, especially the rails, the guardrails along the corridor are being vandalized. Therefore, there must also be penalties. And now the amendments that we are doing here are enhancing penalties, so that if you are caught having vandalized any public infrastructure, Honorable Speaker, in the name of acquiring scrap metal, whether it is aluminium, whether it is copper, then you will pay very hefty fines and penalties that will deter vandalism and, of course, ensure that those who are trading in scrap metal are trading in scrap metal that is legally acquired, not vandalized from public infrastructure, like in our power sector, our road sector, and other public utilities, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to go to each of the acts because the Honorable Owen Bayer has very ably articulated all the amendments in all the other acts, and I thought I could just mention those as I second, and I beg to second, Honorable Speaker. I see the Honorable Owen is telling me to amplify the one on the Parliamentary Service Act of 2019. And Honorable Speaker, as he mentioned by passing, the proposal seeks to provide that the Commission, and that is the Parliamentary Service Commission, shall be responsible for performing functions necessary for the well-being of members and staff of Parliament, including settling of your mileage reimbursement rates and other facilitation relating to the management of state officers of Parliament. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to elaborate, but members know what this means. And if you know what this means, I have never in my life as a member of Parliament benefited from a shilling or even a coin in the name of what is called mileage. And even the member for Dagoretti North, the Honorable Beatrice Elach, from the time she was a nominated member of Parliament in Nairobi, and now that she represents a constituency in Nairobi. And you know, when you get a lady being elected in a constituency member, and especially in a volatile constituency like Dagoretti North, you must give respect to that kind of honorable member being elected in a constituency like that. And she will tell you she has never benefited from even a shilling in her time as a member of Parliament, despite the fact that she may have to do more trips to her constituency and back from Parliament. Within a day or within a week, she does more trips and covered more mileage than a member like our former Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Farah, who will probably go to his constituency once every weekend, travel for 300 kilometers to and fro, but that is the 30 kilometers the Honorable Beatrice will do 5 times probably in a day. It is possible for the member for Dagoretti North to be in her office at 7 a.m. At 8:30, she is in her constituency. 9:30, when the house is rising, she is here. At 11, she goes back to her constituency office, comes back to the house, and the same in the afternoon. And therefore, she also warrants to get some mileage. But we have never gotten, we have never had it to be an issue. But those who benefit, you will appreciate the work that the Parliamentary Service Commission does, and why there is need now to align the Parliamentary Service Act with those functions of ensuring that they are taking care of your well-being as members, and also staff, our staff who are doing a very good job for us, so that all their welfare matters and well-being are catered for by the Parliamentary Service Commission and not any other body out there. And you know what I mean. And if you don't know, please know it is any other body out there. And I have not mentioned any other body. I have just said it is important that just like the Judicial Service Commission deals with judicial officers in the judiciary, this Parliament is an independent arm of government, just like the judiciary is an independent arm of government. And therefore, we must not be treated any differently. If the Judicial Service Commission takes care of the well-being of the members of the judiciary and their staff, we also need to align our Parliamentary Service Act so that our own commission takes care of your well-being
and you need not have any apologies, having a commission to take care of your well-being, even those who benefit from mileage. You benefit from mileage because of the distance you come from in your constituencies. And you know, somebody who is traveling from Tiati, like the women rep for Baringo County, when she moves from Tiati, close to 800 kilometers away from the CBD, I must appreciate what she has to go through as compared to me, who will move a mere 15 kilometers to Kikuyu and back. The farthest corner of my constituency, I think, is about 40 kilometers from here. The farthest corner where I border with Kajiado County and one tip of Narok County. But Honorable Speaker, you know, even as we engage in other debates, including the one man, one woman, one vote, we must be cognizant of the kind of country that we all live in and appreciate each other as Kenyans. It is God who placed us in our various destinations where we call home. And nothing makes the Honorable Farah or the Honorable Lesuda not come to live in Kikuyu. Today I represent a constituency just outside Nairobi. And because of the proximity to Nairobi, we are hosting Kenyans from all walks of life, from Garissa, from Mandera, some from Tiati, some from Western Kenya, some from the far north, as far as Marsabit County. And they are Kenyans who have every right to live in Kikuyu and in Kiambu. Honorable Speaker, I was telling somebody yesterday, in another 20 years or 10 years from today, I may not be a member of parliament for Kikuyu. I do not know who will be the member of parliament for Kikuyu. But any child who has grown up in Kikuyu and knows Kikuyu, irrespective of where they come from, can be elected as a member of parliament in Kikuyu. I will not be surprised, Honorable Speaker, if at one time the governor position in Kiambu goes to somebody who does not originally hail from Kiambu. That is the beauty for democracy, and that is the kind of country we want to build. Today we have elected a president who many believed that there are communities that would never vote for a president from the Rift Valley. But we elected a president on the basis of what he espoused, what he stood for, not on the basis of where he came from. That is why, Honorable Speaker, elsewhere we have taken time, painfully, to stand for what is right, not what is politically expedient and what you think is politically popular in your village, but what is right and good for Kenya. I said yesterday, Honorable Speaker, Kenya is now playing at a global stage. We are globalizing our country. We cannot afford to dwell on village matters now. We cannot villagize, if there is such a word as villagizing. If there is globalizing, please let us not villagize our country. We have a beautiful country. Yes. A beautiful country that we cannot afford to villagize. Yes. A beautiful country where our president has placed on a global stage. Yes. And it is that globalization that we should be focusing on, not villagizing a beautiful country like Kenya. And I want to plead with all of you as members of parliament, please, as you are told by the president on Madaraka Day, you are bestowed with a very dignified position as members of the National Assembly of Kenya. National Assembly, that's why you're called MNAs, members of the National Assembly. Not members of some village assemblies, not members of your county assemblies. You are members of the national assemblies to espouse that what is of national good and the greater public good in the nation of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, because I can see I'm short of time, let me just close by saying that there is a famous saying, which I could quote, that says you can't build a kingdom
with someone who still wants the attention from the village. We will not build our nation if we still want attention from our villages. Let us build a nation where we need and seek attention of the nation of Kenya, not the attention of your villagers. With that, I second.
Thank you. So, the Honorable Chungwa, did I hear you say 1 man, 1 woman, or 1 man, 1 shilling? What did you say? 1 man, 1 woman? Not 1 shilling.
Honorable Speaker, I think I said 1 man,
1 woman,
1 woman, because you know I am a man of a Christian faith. I am married to a beautiful lady from Nyeri County, and you know what they say of our beautiful ladies from Nyeri County, and therefore have to keep re-emphasizing 1 man, 1 woman, 1 vote.
Thank you. Okay. Honorable members, I want to propose the question that the statute law, Miscellaneous Amendment Bill number 67, National Assembly of 2023, be now read a second time. And before I give the first person on this, members, join me in welcoming students from Iriani Secondary School, Tharaka constituency, Tharaka Nithi, who was in public gallery to follow proceedings this morning. And in that regard, I'll give the first bite on this to the honorable member for Tharaka, the Honorable Gitonga Murugara.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to do 2 things. The first one is to welcome the children of Iriani Secondary School from my constituency to this noble house of the National Assembly to observe the proceedings. Iriani Secondary School is one of the best schools from my constituency, Tharaka, and my county, Tharaka Nithi. They are actually performers, both in education and sports, and their numbers too are actually some of the best in the constituency. Young people from Iriani Secondary School, welcome here, see what these honorable members of parliament do, see what your parents elected us to do, and I encourage you to study hard, that one day you will also sit here to represent the great constituency of Tharaka and also to represent your county, Tharaka Nithi. Karibuni sana, observe what we do. I hope my time is not running out. I now rise to support the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, Bill number 67 of 2023, and make the following quick remarks as I support the proposals to amend the Children's Act, the Copyright Act, which is very important in that it tries to recognize the work being done by our musicians. We have these young people who are actually out there producing music and recording, and when it comes to receiving royalties, they are not being properly paid. This act goes in to give a formula on how these young men and young ladies are to be paid in terms of royalties. I also wish to comment on the proposal to amend the Scrap Metal Act. This is an act that deals with waste metal, scrap metal, quite a valuable commodity in the country because some small-scale industries rely on scrap metal to produce goods to be sold. And we know very well that unless this industry is regulated, there is a lot of danger in people going out there to vandalize any metal they come across, anything they come across which is metallic, and they sell it as scrap metal. So it is important that we amend to protect what we do. We have a proposal to amend the National Employment Authority, and many of us here may not know that such an authority exists. This is the authority that regulates employment in the country. And the emphasis being laid here is to ensure that Kenyans actually get employed in all these entities that are employers under FKE and other organizations. We also have proposals to amend the Fisheries Management and Development Act, the Energy Act, and here I urge you to read the Memorandum of Objects in respect of this bill. You will see what proposals are being made. There are also proposals to amend the public-private partnerships, a very important entity which under this law we are able to work both the private and the public in partnership to ensure that our country moves forward, our country develops. It is some of these public-private partnerships that we have today which we are looking on to ensure that what we require to do is actually achieved. I have in my constituency what is called the Grand High Force Dam, Kiboka Dam, which has to come under public-private partnership so that this country is able to generate more energy, is able to get more water for irrigation under such a scheme. And finally, we have the proposal to amend the Parliamentary Service Act together with the Judicial Service Act in a manner that is similar. The manner is similar in that these are two independent institutions. The House of Parliament itself, the Parliament is independent as the second arm of government, while the judiciary is independent as the third arm of government. Both of them have independent commissions that take care of these particular institutions, and the introduction being proposed here is to ensure that these commissions are able to take care of members' welfare. Members' welfare includes members of parliament who actually do a great service to this country. Some have to travel long distances from their constituencies to the Central House of Parliament here in Nairobi, as a result of which they suffer great hardships. They may not know where to sleep, they do not know where to put up, possibly they also do not know where to spend in the evenings. This is why the Parliamentary Service Commission comes in and is now being empowered to ensure that away from other bodies, it is able to take care of the members' welfare. And this is very important. And the same applies to the judges and the members of judiciary. As much as we also talk about parliamentary staff, that Judicial Service Commission is able to take care of judges while they are discharging their duties. It is able to take care of members of staff while they are discharging their duties, away from interference in the courts from other bodies. These are very important laws which we need to support, which we need to actually agree that we effect the amendments, and those affected are able to benefit from what we are now propagating in these laws. So with those very many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I do support the proposed amendments and urge this House to support the bill. We pass it and we are able to implement it to the betterment of the House of Parliament and the betterment of the judiciary, which is the third arm of government. Mr. Speaker, sir, I do support.
Thank you. Member for Dadaab.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to support the bill, the Statute of Miscellaneous Law Amendment Bill. Mr. Speaker, we have critical infrastructures in this country. And one of the biggest problems that's been happening right now is the vandalization of some of those critical infrastructures like transformers. It doesn't cost much for any organization to put up the right cameras wherever you have a transformer. So that, and we already have a unit in the police force which is supposed to protect critical infrastructures, such as this. Mr. Speaker, we cannot continue having some small cartels who specialize in sending young boys to go out there and vandalize such infrastructures and then bring those things as scraps to them for them to sell to the international market. Copper, transformers, all these things. So the actual exportation itself of scrap metals should be banned in the country. We need to ban it. We are a country that wants to industrialize. We can recycle that iron ore, or what do you call the metals that are there, and use them ourselves to add value to our industrial sector. So when I hear, and then the penalties have got to be not only for the young boys who go and steal these things to go and take it to a big person at the other end. Usually, handling stolen property should carry more severe penalty than the actual stealing itself. But the people who are actually encouraging this business are people who are businessmen themselves and largely would want to export these things outside the country. They pull it together, they aggregate it, consolidate it, and then sell it to either a Chinese or God knows somebody else who's going to send it out of the country. Mr. Speaker, you cannot fight the symptoms of a disease. You go and attack the vector itself. So what we need to do, and I think any developing country, any country that's worth its own salt, that wants to seriously develop, cannot develop without having an industrial takeoff. And you cannot now have an industrial takeoff if you don't protect your iron, your metals. We have to protect those metals. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, we're already talking of having power outages and sometimes not getting our electricity because of this kind of thuggery and burglary or the stealing of these things. The famous princess, when we had the French Revolution, said, if they don't have, if there's no bread, why not eat cake? For somebody now from other parts of the country other than northern Kenya, the adage befits very well the state we're in. We don't have the national grid in the whole region. The only places we have the national grid is up to Isiolo, a little bit past Isiolo, and on the other hand, we have it only up to Garissa. And beyond Garissa, we don't have the national grid. We don't have electricity. We don't have connections. All these things that you talk about, the last mile connections and all those things, are basically news and music to our children, our students, and our mothers and fathers, and young mothers and fathers. So it's important also, while we're talking about these things, to understand the need to take this development to the four corners of this country. And the only way to take it to the four corners of this country is to disabuse, Mr. Speaker, is to disabuse this very village concept of trying to reduce this country into villagization of politics. Politicization of every small thing. Mr. Speaker, when I was in the 10th Parliament, we passed what was called the Equalization Fund. The principle and the idea behind the Equalization Fund was that those old and northern frontier districts and the contiguous districts who were a buffer zone for the center, who were left out of development right from the colonial days up to the time when we got independence. And after we got independence, then we had the Sessional Paper number 10 to continue that institutional marginalization of those areas. And we've had, at the time we were passing our own Constitution 2010, we had all those years, from the time we became a colony and protectorate of Kenya, up to the time we got independence, and up to the time we had 30 years later, over 100 years of systematic government, institutional marginalization of those areas. In the shortest possible time, to begin with, we ended up with a very small amount, 0.5% of the annual revenue. 0.5% for all those 14 counties, 16 counties that had, or 14 counties that were essentially under that. Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Lamu, all the way up to Isiolo, Marsabit, Turkana. I mean, those were the original things. But then this was expanded now to call it the ASAL areas. Areas that did not suffer the way we suffered ourselves over that period of time. So it was watered down. It was going to have very little effect. And then we went further and said that we're going to look for marginalized pockets in the rest of the country. Kenny, you get my point. Even in the major urban centers, we were looking for that. The idea is very simple. It's a way of trying to make sure that this country does not remain a united Kenya republic with one nation and one people called Kenyans. Nobody is going to accept to become a second-class citizen in his own country or a third-class citizen. These are recipes of a period of time for revolutions. For revolutions. So when I see today people talking about 1 mile, 1 vote, 1 man, 1 woman, 1 vote, absolute nonsense. You can't get any more dimwit than to advocate for such petty, base, literally, and frankly, things that you would never want to be associated with as a nationalist. And then somebody like that would want to become a president in this country. You think you're going to become a president and people are going to allow you to come and run the country and you take them like they're your slaves or part of your colony? No, they will revolt against you and there will be a revolution in the country. There were going to be civil wars. It's a recipe for a conflict. And when that happens, there is no guarantee who is going to remain in the country, by the way. In Rwanda, similar things happened. When the ethnicity of every Rwandan had to be put onto their ID cards where they were called Tutsi, Hutu. And the Tutsis were only 15%. They endured marginalization. They endured victimization from the time we got independence from the Belgians until 1994, including pogroms, including trying to wipe them out from the face of the earth and calling them cockroaches. What eventually happened? What eventually happened? They fought their way through. They kicked out the oppressors from the country, and that 15% has had the reins of this kind of Rwanda from 1994 until today. If you read the history of Uganda, a country like Uganda, and you see the kind of things that used to be done to the Banyankole, the Bahima, the Bachiga, those people of the West, the Batoro, because the conflict used to be between the northerners and the center, the Baganda, and what you call the northerners who are basically Nilotics. Whether it was the Kabaka side or it was Milton Obote, Brigadier General Okero, Tito, and all those ones. But eventually, when they could not endure, somebody from the north comes in, he gives them hell. Somebody from the other side comes in, he gives them hell. Basically, they were the punching bag for everybody. Now, in a sense, the minorities in this country cannot accept to become a punching bag for anybody, regardless of whether you consider yourself a majority or not. Mr. Speaker, can I beg you to just give me a few more minutes, like 5 minutes?
You'll have 2.
I have 3. No, thank you.
I said you'll have 2.
Mr. Speaker, and it's precisely in line with that. Let's read history. If you think you can enjoy life, you can have tarmac roads everywhere, you can have water everywhere, and the others are going to live like they are in, the Red Indians of the olden days. You know what I mean? And the Maasais are still going to be all their lives in shukas, and basically, they're there as a tourist attraction, nothing more. And you don't think that they're any more equal to you, then it doesn't work, Mr. Speaker. It creates that kind of a revolution. And the country will go to hell. So we are lucky we have not had a violent conflict or a civil war in this country. The day it happens, We've had it all around us. We've had it in Uganda. It's there in Sudan. It was there in South Sudan. It was there in Somalia. It's now happening in Ethiopia in a manner you cannot imagine. It's happened everywhere except Tanzania. The only neighbor that has not gone through that is Tanzania. Why? Tanzanians, you look at the history of that country. The first leader of Tanzania was a Zanaki. The people are no more than 100,000 population. The second leader, Mkapa, Nyerere was that, comes from a small minority in the south. The third leader, remind me the name, was also coming from a small, he comes from Bagamoyo, he's a Kikwete, Jakaya Kikwete. He's a Mkwere. The Kwere is about 30,000. Suluhu, as we have right now, you can imagine. Magufuli from small, you can only have a nation. The only guarantee for the future stability and existence of a country called Kenya is that kind of politics. Is that kind of politics. Not the politics in which you say, I'm going to use the impurity of my own, what they call numbers, you get tyranny of numbers to suppress everybody else. 1 minute, Sika, any chance?
You're going to need 30 or 1 hour? Okay.
Okay, thank you. You can't have that. You can't have that. Because these are men. You know, a man, I am a man. Man is a mankind. I'm not talking, I'm a man, I'm a woman. That's what the African Americans were fighting for when they were going for emancipation way back in the South. They just said, I am a man. If you remember in Selma, Montgomery, and all that. Now, for you to think that any community is any less worth than you, and we all came from colonialism, we came from all that slavery and everything else, we should know better than that. We should know better than that, because a small minority whites colonized us for 70 years and subjugated us. You get my point? They were removed, both by our own efforts and the global effort itself. Let's unite this country by having fairness, equity, equality, more than anything else, equity. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Jororok.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to support the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill of 2023. Mr. Speaker, I want to go straight to the specific acts. And number one is the National Employment Authority. Mr. Speaker, we've had an authority which has not been able to recruit a substantive CEO due to difficulties in the Act, where we are saying the CEO must be below that 5 years. But again, we are saying the same CEO must have an experience of 5 years in management level. Mr. Speaker, this could not be possible, and therefore I support the amendment towards removal of the section that is talking of below 35 years for the CEO. Mr. Speaker, I also support the removal of the word in youth in the Act, because we know that we have so many job seekers who are above 35, but they are yet to be in any meaningful job. Mr. Speaker, on the Children Act, I support the removal of the word. Before the Children Act, Mr. Speaker, let me go to the Energy Act, and where I support the issue of including Kenya Power into the membership of Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Act. And this will ensure that we have seamless working relationship between REREC and KPLC. And this will enhance electrification in our constituencies. Mr. Speaker, we've had a situation where REREC does its work, but the metering work, which is done by KPLC, takes so long because there is no seamless working relationship between REREC and Kenya Power. Mr. Speaker, on the Children Act, I support the issue of granting male applicants the right to adopt a child. Mr. Speaker, the Act as it was, the Children Act, I would consider it discriminating, because there is no way you can discriminate a male applicant from adoption of the child, and we know the principle, the guiding principle in terms of adoption of the child is the best interest of the child. We have some instances where the best interest of the child is on the male applicant. Mr. Speaker, finally, on the issue of the independence of the Parliamentary Service Commission and Judicial Service Commission is important. Mr. Speaker, this House has supported independent offices before. In the last financial year, this House passed a resolution that the Auditor General will have a single line, one-line budget. And this was meant to empower the Office of the Independent General, the Office of Auditor General, in undertaking his or her work. Same case should apply to the Judicial Service Commission and the Parliamentary Service Commission, which are independent offices. There's no way, Mr. Speaker, you would have a commission and then again you purport to regulate the sittings of Parliament, assuming that this Parliament is undertaking an investigation of something, and then you purport to control their number of sittings. Mr. Speaker, that amounts to interference of the independence of the independent institution, and therefore I support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Regulation North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support the miscellaneous amendment bill, a bill of 2023, Mr. Speaker. And as I start, Mr. Speaker, let me just start with the objects of the bill and just say that while we appreciate that sometimes we carry miscellaneous bills, it is also important for us, and I know it's important for all of us members, to try and just look at the main act so that you find yourself when you are speaking on a bill, it's very clear. I'll start with the Children's Act, Act 2022, which the bill proposes to amend and now to remove the provisions which prohibit the court from granting a sole male applicant adoption of a child. And Mr. Speaker, in this country, a few years ago, not just a few years, a family has gone through the worst for the last 20 years. They went through a case that was very sad, through the High Court to even our Supreme Court at that time. This was a child who was born by a mother who was a Kenyan and a child who was born by a father who was of a British citizen. And when they had issues, Mr. Speaker, they had to live with the child when he was 7 years. This girl has followed her child. It is just recently the UK government, through the courts, decided now when the child is going to 20 years is when he has now been granted, the mother has been granted to see his child. And so these are some of the things that we are saying the Children's Act is going to support, not just that one Kenyan woman, but I know we have very many other Kenyan women who are going through the same challenges, even abroad, Mr. Speaker. You're told you can't even bring your child to Kenya because you have to, and you remember there was a time in this parliament, Mr. Speaker, we were to pass a treaty so that we help in. And I know we rejected it, but it is something we need to look at. So as we even look at the proposed amendments, we have to ask ourselves, I know there are challenges when we adopt children. They go through a lot of anxiety. They also find themselves in capability with their families they have gone in, and many other things. So it's something we have to look at both sides and see that when we are agreeing on it, that we are able to ensure that child also goes to a foster home that is a home for them. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of scrap metal, where we amend, and I want to agree with the Honorable Farah. Today, when you look at all our streets, Mr. Speaker, trust me, they've already taken everything that was done on the ring roads. All the metals have been taken because people know where to sell them. The whole of Ngong Road, they have cut. The whole of Olongurueni Road, every metal is gone. And we are saying these companies that we are now again seeking, among other things, to provide issuance of license to persons dealing in copper, they are the ones who are now bringing the challenges we have, because they are the ones you find in a whole estate, a whole place is full of scrap metal. But you're wondering, how do you deal with this? While we are talking about climate change, where we are talking about pollution, where we are talking about how do you deal with such environment, we are still encouraging the same. This one of licenses, Mr. Speaker, we need to think through. This thing of scrap metal must just go, because we are encouraging just our highways to always be very dangerous, people coming at night cutting. When you are driving on the next day, you find yourself, you'll just way off, because they've taken the whole thing. So it is something we need to look at, even as we agree that they will be given licenses. Mr. Speaker, when I look at now the National Employment Authority Act, and so we are saying to provide that the act shall apply to an employer or who employs more than 10 employees, and also extends its application to every county government, that it also cleans up the word youth and now bring in job seekers. It is good, yes, but then as we bring in job seekers, we have to ensure. Sometimes you find every target group, PWDs and all that, will wonder, now, where are we clustered? They are all job seekers, yes, and so I'm hoping as we bring in the definition, it also doesn't completely erode also their gains, so that they wonder, how do we compete in that space? Mr. Speaker, in terms of the fisheries, the Cabinet Secretary is responsible to fisheries, shall be the chairperson of the Kenya Fisheries Advisory Council. You see, one of the things we find here, we agree cabinet secretaries to be chairs, but most of the time they don't chair. So you'll have an alternative and an alternative and an alternative, and so sometimes it becomes so tough. So I'm hoping as we give the cabinet secretary to be the chair of the council, that he will be available. It will not be something where you just give and then you start sending your alternative to represent you. Then there's no purpose of making you chair, because some of these decisions are done by the real chair. So that is one thing. The Energy Act, the bill proposes to give effect to the recommendations of the Presidential Task Force. Madam Speaker, on the review of power purchase agreements, I agree. I also agree to include KPLC in the membership. But I want us to focus as this House, and I remember the woman rep of Laikipia, Jane, did a very, very fantastic job at one point to see how we can deal with KPLC and all that. But as we continue looking at many documents, you realize most of the powers of KPLC seems to be going, Madam Speaker, into Kentraco slowly by slowly. And we are just quiet in this House. And you know KPLC is where everything, I mean, getting Kentraco guys is so difficult than getting KPLC guys. So if we have decided to erode their gains and their mandate slowly, taking it to Kentraco, we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to deal with that? And I have seen of late we've had a very, very negative campaign on them, and we must stop it, because it is us who have killed KPLC ourselves. So we can't come and now blame them, yet we know the things we did wrongly. And that is why our leadership, all of us, is hurting us in the things that we do. When KPLC was KPLC, it is us. Most of us here did the business with them, Madam Speaker. And we just brought the institution to its knees. And now we want to blame the officers. It is not fair to Kenyans also who work for us. So we must try and also agree to take responsibility, get ourselves and say we have done wrong, build back the institution, let the institution start thinking how they can reduce the costs that we have that are so high. I have a mosque in Amboseli, Madam Speaker. My Muslim brothers and sisters have not been praying for the last 7 to 8 months. Why? They were just roped in with a bill of 1 million. The contractor who did that, Madam Speaker, decided to go with all the papers. Now they don't even know whether it is their bill or it is the way a land normally has a bill, and so you are told it is all your bill you must pay. So what I'm telling also Kenya Power, as I support to help, to assist and see if we can stand in and ensure you continue with your work, you have to also start bringing in Flexi and looking at many other things that we can work together. Let them come, let people come and do agreements and see how to work together in paying their bills, but they continue even praying. Madam Speaker, in Kajiado, we have a whole place, a whole ward. They put in the huge power lines in the chambers of these people. These people cannot tap even at one point on this electricity, yet it is passing through their land. And so I am begging on that in Kajiado Central, just on the way past the airport, that whole area, going up to where they have the windmills nowadays, the new ones, that place they need at least power to go there. So, Madam Speaker, as I finalize, the Parliamentary Service Commission, as the majority leader has said, and I want to repeat, the work we do in Nairobi is not a joke. In Nairobi, you don't sleep. You are 24/7, Madam Speaker, in your constituency, during at night with your people, during this time of how we've been hit. The whole week, we are with them.
Thank you, Member for Dagoretti North. The Honorable Member for Emurua Dikir, the Honorable Johanna Ngeno.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity to to also make my remarks on this particular bill. Madam Speaker, I wish to state categorically that I'm in full support, and especially on the matters that are touching on several issues. One of the issues, Madam Speaker, which I wish to support mostly is on the issue of child adoption. Madam Speaker, for a long time, there has been several candidates or individuals who would wish to adopt children based on reasons, several reasons. But in this case, Madam Speaker, the law has been very restrictive on this issue. And when you look at the amendment that is coming up, it is allowing even a sole male applicant to adopt without restrictions. Madam Speaker, and so many other amendments which has come a long way in equalizing actually the need to apply to adopt a child. Madam Speaker, when you look at the provisions of that Article 186 or Section 186, it is granting the court the powers to determine on what kind of the court may make an adoption order, on what kind of order to grant the applicant, a sole applicant or two spouses jointly, but the most specific one, Madam Speaker, was where it's affecting the male or sole male applicant. Madam Speaker, I think also in future we might make also some amendments into the issues of child upkeep so that it also is seen from the same lenses that we are seeing the child adoption, so that in most of the matters when there are cases of child upkeep or a case where who should stay with the child in the event of maybe separation, etc., Madam Speaker, these are the issues that we need to do serious scrutiny so that we do not seem to be discriminating one member or one person or the other. Madam Speaker, there is also the issue of scrap metal, which is also an amendment that is geared towards protecting the properties, especially the properties that are very expensive and which are easier to be vandalized by people. And I think I'm also in full support of this because majorly, especially when you look at the part which is dealing with the installation of transformers, majorly, Madam Speaker, people tend to vandalize or steal properties that are government owned. And especially on this one, because there are no securities around all the transformers across the country. You find there are transformers installed in areas where maybe the security is not even provided, and it is an initial target for vandalism. So, Madam Speaker, I think I support this particular law so that it also protects the government properties wherever they are. But there's something, Madam Speaker, on the scrap metal, which I think the government also should put into serious consideration. Remember, Madam Speaker, we've had the rail lines which have become moribund or are not in use anymore. When you go to the Ministry of Transport, especially the Kenya Railways, you find the rail lines lying there and have been lying there for many years. And they are not in use. They are not going to be used anymore. They are, because the type of railway that we have started constructing will not, the metals which are there cannot be used anymore. Madam Speaker, the country needs, especially on our department for housing, needs a lot of steel for building houses. Madam Speaker, I wish the government should take stock of all the metals, especially the rail metals which are no longer in good use, which I know cost even millions and billions of money. The government should look into it so that they can convert those metals into use, especially to do the steel that is used for constructing housing, and that can make the affordable housing more cheaper than it was before. Madam Speaker, I think I also wanted to laud the amendment on where basically it was talking about students. You amend to mean job seekers, and of course the youth also to mean something else. And I think I'm in agreement with the amendment that there are some discriminative words which are usually used, and especially in the current employment opportunities, which are very discriminatory. Madam Speaker, these changes or these amendments are good, and I want to support. And also on the issue of, I had my friends discussing majorly on the issue of tribalism, ethnicity, etc., Madam Speaker. I wish our country remain one and united, under one flag, under one president, under one government, and under one National Assembly, under one county, under one Senate, and under our counties. This country must remain one. And I wish to support the proposal by NCIC, Madam Speaker, that we need to, if we are true to the word that we want to remove ethnicity and tribalism in this country, we need to rename even the counties which are named after tribes, so that we remain true to the word. Why do we have Akisi County, which is actually named after Kisis? Why do we have Kikuyu constituency, which is named after Kikuyus? Why do we have counties which are named after tribes? If we are true to the word that we want to remove the word tribe. And by the way, Madam Speaker, tribe is not a bad thing. Tribe was even created, was done by God himself. Like when you read in the Bible, there is the tribe of Judah, there is the tribe of Jacob. It was God who created tribes. It is only us who make negative use of the tribe. Even when we had almost become one and we built the Tower of Babel, God in his wisdom saw that these people are becoming something else and they want to do something bad. So he decided to subdivide again all the tribes to more small tribes. So tribe was created by God. It is only us, people who do not understand why it was created and why it is useful. It is only us who are using it negatively for our own experiencing. But I want to tell this nation that let us not use our tribes negatively. Let us not use the ethnicity negatively, because it can create trouble and problems. But what I would also want us to discuss, because majorly when I see people discussing about tribe and tribalism and regional and all that, what is ailing this country has nothing much to do with tribalism and ethnicity and regionalism. What is ailing this country, if we must tell ourselves the truth, is corruption, wastage. That is what is ailing this country. And that is what every politician who take to the podium should be discussing. Even when we are making budgets, Madam Speaker, we must also ensure that whatever money we allocate, every department, every ministry is used prudently, without waste, because even the money that we are using today to do our budgets, where we are getting that money, the way we are getting that money from the citizens, it's painful. So it is upon this House to majorly discuss on how we can prudently use the money that we collect from our people so that the pain our people go through will be compensated by the work that is going to be done by the ministries and the departments where that money is put. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Member for Emukur Dikri. Honorable members, I'll go to the Honorable Naisula Lesuda, Member for Samburu West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity so that I can contribute to the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2023. And from the onset, I want to support this bill, Madam Speaker. I'd like to pick on a number of issues that this Miscellaneous Amendment Bill deals with, Madam Speaker. And one of them is the amendment on the National Employment Authority, Madam Speaker. It is important that this authority is enhanced. It is important that it's given the necessary teeth it needs to ensure that it is functional, it works for our young people, who many of them graduate, many of them finish work, finish school, and after that they are left out very helpless and hopeless after they graduate and they do not have work, Madam Speaker. We are seeing in this bill that it is empowering the trainees, the interns. This authority will be able to ensure that it looks for placement for the interns, Madam Speaker. It will also ensure that it liaises with private companies and also the national government in ensuring that our people get placements, Madam Speaker. Just the other day, I was following a conversation on where all our children who are going to TVETs, where do they go after graduating from the TVETs? As a country, we have been talking about and have been encouraging the young people that if you're not able to go to universities or colleges, then there is the option of TVETs, Madam Speaker. Almost each and every constituency in this country has a TVET or a TTI as they were known before, Madam Speaker. But then I always wonder, where do all these children go after? The saloonists, the ones who have studied electrical engineering in the TVET, the masons. So I think it is important for this authority to have a database of all our children, and I do hope that the students will then, once they finish, they will register with this authority, Madam Speaker, so that anybody who would like to employ our young people will then have a database where they can go and see the trainees and they can be able to access jobs, Madam Speaker. And so this is a very good amendment to give more powers and to establish different incentives to the authority, Madam Speaker, so that our young people can then be connected to the job markets. The second thing, Madam Speaker, I would like to talk about is the issue of scrap metal. And what I want to say is that even as we talk about vandalization and the young people who probably are vandalizing, the railway, the steel, the poles, the electricity poles and all that because of joblessness, and we go for them. We should also, as a country, be serious and go for the business people who then buy this scrap metal from the young men who are used to vandalize the infrastructure in this country. We cannot always be going for the small people or the people who are being used by barons and cartels up there, Madam Speaker. All of them, the law should apply equally when we discuss these matters. It's the same thing with this issue of banditry and insecurity, Madam Speaker, where we just target on these young people. But I'm sure those who are used to go and steal livestock from others, Madam Speaker. But I'm sure as a country, if we were serious to find out where do these livestock go after they have been stolen? Who are these people who are probably sitting in air-conditioned houses in Nairobi and offices who are beneficiaries of cattle rustling, Madam Speaker? And so when we put these penalties, when we talk about these issues that affect our country, we shouldn't just look at the people at the lower level, but we should also go for the big people so that we can cut off the entire business from the head all the way down, Madam Speaker. The issue of giving independence to the Parliamentary Service Commission and also the Judicial Service Commission, I do support, and I agree with my colleagues that even, for example, issues of mileage, when we look at people who are coming from far and having to come to work, I can use my example from Samburu, I also agree that people who also work from within or close to Nairobi, they should also have the same benefit, Madam Speaker. And it shouldn't be always an issue of the other person has, so I should also, we should take away from that person so that I also get. It should be a matter of looking at everything objectively so that those who have continue to have to help them to work, and those who don't have, Madam Speaker, can also benefit. And that is the conversation I've been hearing my colleagues and others talking about. When you talk about equalization fund, do not feel bad for the counties who benefit from equalization fund. Put your case on the table and also raise the issues why you should be supported or why you need to benefit in one way or another, but not saying those who benefit because they are few, because they are, I don't know, 10,000. I wish we could exchange. You also go and live in some of the areas where we come from and see the challenges that we face and where we have come from as a people. And so it's not a matter of always having to compete in this country or seeing others have and others don't have, Madam Speaker. It is a matter of putting your issues on the floor objectively without belittling the efforts that this country have been making to bring other people and other counties and other areas up, Madam Speaker. As I conclude, I have also seen issues of collection and payment of royalty, Madam Speaker. There is a lot of kizungu mingi on that issue of royalties, Madam Speaker. We need to look at it properly, Madam Speaker, to ensure that the locals benefit from issues to do with royalties, Madam Speaker. With the same thing, we cannot have other people sitting around, they get the mining licenses, they go and exploit the communities, give them tokens, and they're the ones who will suffer even from the negative effects of extractions in those areas, Madam Speaker. And so the communities have to be safeguarded as we look at these issues of royalties. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, on the issue of ethnicity and tribalism in this country, and I've just listened to my good friend and colleague on issues of renaming counties or renaming areas. That is just dealing with a wound. You put a bandage on a very sick wound and think that we are healing the terrible issue of tribalism in this country, Madam Speaker. We should look at the root causes of issues to do with equity. Those are the things that will fight tribalism in this country, ensuring that every part of this country feels to be part of the country, Madam Speaker. There's really nothing so much in a name. Whether you're called Samburu, whether you're called Maraisayan, whether you're called whatever name you, Maralal, or whatever name you would want to call a county, it should be an issue of making sure that we have equity in terms of distribution of resources, in terms of distributing the positions that are there in government and even in the county government. There are other very serious issues that we need to look at, and even the institution NCIC should be looking at, and not just in naming. I even looked at the list of the names and the counties and places, then you realize it is even selective. It is not cutting across the entire country. And so for me, that is just putting a bandage on a wound. Let us dissect that wound, treat it properly, and end ethnicity in this country. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Suda. In fact, one of the reasons that I gave you an opportunity after the Honorable Member for Emukuru is I expected you to make a comment about Samburu County. Well, the next opportunity, honorable members, goes to the Honorable Kawanjiko, member for Kiambaa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this amendment, the Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2023. And I rise to support this amendment, Madam Speaker, especially when we are amending the independence of the commissions. That is the Parliamentary Service Commission and the Judicial Service Commission, Madam Speaker. You know, it is clear that our Constitution has given the mandate of these two independent institutions to be making some decisions in regards to the people that they govern and they manage, Madam Speaker. And I therefore support it. The Judicial Service Commission, it is an area that we should not even interfere with, because at the end of the day, the judiciary is the one that knows how it handles its issues, its matters, especially on issues to do with the employment, or especially on the issues to do with the benefits of its members, and maybe probably work around within the judiciary so that at least they can be able to make sure that they offer comfortability, because they are the only people who understand whatever happens within the judiciary, Madam Speaker. But the moment we allow someone from an outside to come to judicial and determine and decide on how probably the Judicial Service Commission is supposed to run the affairs of the judiciary, then, Madam Speaker, I feel from where I stand that probably will be jeopardizing the independence of the judiciary, Madam Speaker. Even on the Parliamentary Service Commission, they are doing an amazing work. Some of the issues that are affecting members and their staff, it can only be understood by them, Madam Speaker. And therefore, it is prudent for us to make sure we amend this act and to make sure that we give them that autonomy to make some decisions as far as the Parliamentary Service Commission and the Judicial Service Commission, Madam Speaker. It is also very discriminatory when you hear that on the issues of that adoption, Madam Speaker, that we are discriminating, especially whereby we are removing on the amendment of the Children Act, and where we are removing that provision, Madam Speaker, where it was prohibiting a male applicant from adopting or from retaining the custody of a child, Madam Speaker. It is discriminatory, it is unconstitutional, and I therefore support this, because sometimes you may realize that the person who have the benefit or have the interest of the children or the interest of that child is the male parent, Madam Speaker. And the moment you start discriminating that male child cannot be able to take care of that child, then it is on its way, it is on its own, Madam Speaker, very discriminatory. And maybe probably the man has the ability and the capacity to take care of that child. So I support that amendment. Let us remove that discriminatory amendment, Madam Speaker, and give and allow the court sometimes to make that decision in regards to who hold the interest of that child, Madam Speaker. Also on the issue of scrap metal, you know, it is an area that we really need to look into. A lot of vandalism is happening within the Republic. You realize, like I have a constituency in Kiambaa, we have done a lot of Murikamwizi, those street rights. And you realize that the people who vandalize, these are taxpayers' money. These are government resources that has been put in that area. But there is a lot of vandalism that is happening within the constituency. And I want to call upon the police, I want to call upon the law enforcers, I want to call upon the citizen, because these street rights and whatever is being vandalized, they are selling to scrap metals. And these are the resources spent by the national government to make sure that probably we right those areas, to make sure that we have put walls that will benefit the locals and the majority who are supposed to benefit from the investments that has been done by the government, Madam Speaker. But you realize this vandalism is on another level. They are vandalizing even the transformers, an area whereby the government has really invested a lot of money to make sure there is electricity, to make sure that we can be able to empower the hustlers by making sure that, we promote 24 hours business economy, especially on areas whereby we are hosting many people who work within Nairobi, Madam Speaker. There must be a very punitive law to make sure that those people who are dealing with scrap metals, if you are caught by the law enforcers dealing with scrap metals that has been the scrap metals probably that you are vandalizing transformers, you are vandalizing roads, on encouraging this kind of business that is transacting within our community, Madam Speaker, has been dealt with. We have issues of transformers being stolen within Kiambu County. And you realize that the person who has been buying these scrap metals and who have been vandalizing transformers, he's doing this business only to sell those metals, Madam Speaker. There must be punitive law to make sure that we protect the public interest whenever it comes to such kind of businesses. We cannot allow to be investing a lot of money on those issues, and then one person is taking away all that investment, whereby we are promoting businesses, whereby we are making sure that manufacturers have electricity, that homes are connected to electricity. But in an area, when they vandalize a transformer, it is taking us 2 or 3 months before we replace that transformer. And therefore, our people suffer as a result of that vandalism. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I'm supporting this. Let us deal with making sure that we amend the law and make sure that probably the people who are going to be licensed, there must be clear guidelines on what kind of scrap metals are they going to be selling. And if it is possible, we do away with all the scrap metals within the Republic, Madam Speaker, because the amount of money we're investing is a lot. And then we allow few individuals to destroy those kind of investment. Madam Speaker, I support that amendment. The amendment on the National Employment Authority, it is another big thing, Madam Speaker. And I support what other members have been saying, especially on areas to do with promoting our young people to get employment. On areas whereby we have so many young people who have not been able to go to university, but they have manual courses or courses that probably they have done within the TVETs or within the polytechnics or within an area probably that they have not been, even they have been able to gain that experience, Madam Speaker, from the local arrangement whereby we employ casual laborers, but with time these people are able to gain experience and maybe probably become good machinery, carpenters, Madam Speaker, tailors. Those are the people that the national employment should be considering as a country. And we support this amendment and allow the national authority, National Employment Authority, to make sure that they standardize on how they are going to get employment for our people. Even if they're going to get this, and we have heard the president saying in a couple of few months, Madam Speaker, and we know that even in the next maybe few months, we'll be going to sign some bilateral agreements, especially when it comes to labor migration, Madam Speaker. We support labor export. We are supporting national employment, and they must arise to the occasion, Madam Speaker, and support as many people as possible and follow up with other countries that really are willing to import the labor from our country, Madam Speaker. We have countries that has really benefited with this labor export. We have a country like Philippines, Madam Speaker, that they are doing very well. Their main foreign exchange earner, Madam Speaker, comes from the labor export. And therefore, even as a country, because we have very hardworking young people, we have so many young people who don't have jobs, but they are so hardworking within the Republic, we must look for a way to promote them, to support them, and to make it possible, Madam Speaker, that we can be able to export labor as a country. We call upon the CS for labor, especially on these issues, the bilateral agreement that have happened. We have seen them advertising on the issues to do with the nursing. They're exporting labor to UK, they're exporting labor to Saudi Arabia, and now we have seen that there is proper agreement, because we don't want to experience a situation whereby our people go to those countries and they are mistreated, Madam Speaker. So therefore, amending this law to make sure that there is that follow-up, to make sure that the people who import labor to our country and the people who export labor within the Republic of Kenya are well licensed, are well known, and even as they take this initiative to transfer and to export labor to other countries, Madam Speaker, they take responsibility of the people we export to other countries. So it is an area that can really help us and benefit us as a country. We really need to put a lot of input, and therefore I support this amendment, miscellaneous amendment bill, Madam Speaker, to make sure at the end of the day we empower National Employment Authority so that we can export as much labor as possible, because within our area, Madam Speaker, and within the Republic, we have a shortage of jobs within the Republic, and we must think outside the box and make sure we create employment for our people. I support, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable members, next opportunity is for the Honorable Gideon Ochanda, member for Bondo. Well, before I go to the Honorable member for Bondo, Honorable Thuku Kwenya, you have a point of order? Kwenya Thuku? I'm not seeing you where I normally used to.
I'm sorry.
I'm normally used to seeing you on this side.
Sorry, I pressed by an error. I am online to speak.
Oh, okay. So the Honorable Gideon Ochanda, please proceed.
I don't have my. Thanks, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill in a number of respects. The whole issue of KPLC and REREC, I think, is so critical. You know, the arrangement in terms of how power gets sourced, transmitted, and sold is going through all manner of different entities. One of those does not include REREC. Yet REREC constructs. REREC does lines. But then once they have done the lines, they hand over to KPLC. What we have at the moment, particularly with the disasters that we have had during the long rain seasons, is like the issue of maintenance on things that were not done right is transferred over to KPLC. Yet, the people who did the construction are REREC. The quality of contracts, the quality of transformers, the quality of lines, the quality of poles that are used at the initial level are done by REREC. So if these things are poorly done, if poles are sourced that are poor, and the lines are transferred to KPLC, basically we have transferred costs that are not supposed to be met by KPLC, but yet KPLC has now to pay them because they're the ones who are selling power. So I think this is one of the most critical things that this bill has done, which I really appreciate. That there needs to be a merger somewhere. There needs to be a point at which REREC and KPLC meets for purposes of making sure that at least when we're talking about power, power is there and there's quality in terms of supplies and contracts that are there. At the moment, if you look at my constituency, for example, I have 48 transformers. Out of those 48 transformers, 23 are not working. 23 are dead. So when 23 are dead, and a lot of them poles are down, a lot of these were done by REREC, but were transmitted to KPLC. Now it's up to KPLC to make sure that they work. I think this has been fairly unfair, and the bill has done a good thing in trying to put a connection between KPLC and REREC. The next thing, Madam Speaker, that is useful here is the regulation of the scrap metal industry. Licensing and all these things that are placed in the bill are good. But in my view, there is somewhere where the bill is not addressing the real issue. One, it is trying, for example, the section that is given here for purpose of penalties, for example, that they're only making reference to public utilities. They're making reference to public signboards on the roads, guardrails and all those. that if you deal or if you steal them or whatever, then that's an offense. But let me tell you, and let me tell this House, that these scrap metal dealers has a very serious connection with the people who are now stealing metals beyond what we call public utilities. There are people who are losing their fences, individuals. There are people who are losing their gates, because if you have some gates in your ranches and all that, realize the following day your gate is gone. So by the end of the day, it is not just public utilities that are vandalized. The guys are vandalizing even private property. So what we need to do is, and what the bill has failed to do in my view, is regulating scrap metal dealers, and it's trying to license them, and it's indicating that they must be stationary somewhere, that they must have somewhere the point where they deal. Let me tell you, if you are stationary in a point, how do you get metal or scrap from 2 or 3 kilometers away? It means that there's somebody who will have to look for it, there's somebody who will have to deliver it to you where you are dealing, and it's only you who is licensed. So what happens to these chaps between where the scrap metals are sourced from and the dealer? So the bill needs to indicate, or needs to have, where these guys who hand over scrap to dealers, they need to indicate source, so that your source, one will know whether you have brought somebody's gate down, your source should know whether you're bringing somebody's fences down, or you have brought billboards and stuff like that down. So there must be somewhere that the bill has not indicated, and we need to bring it. Before you get to the dealer, somebody supplies the dealer. Who is this person? And how are we regulating him or her, such that this thing is made right? I think that's one thing that the bill is not properly looking at. The other thing that the bill has is in terms of fisheries. Madam Speaker, I think we need to remind the nation that fisheries, I think sometimes is overrated. It is one area, a sector that has many entities: Fisheries Council, Advisory Council, Fisheries Marketing Authority, all these kind of things. Yet, in real sense, fisheries is devolved. Fisheries is devolved. But if you look at how the structure of the department, it goes up to the beach. It goes up to the beach, up to the BMUs. So we have a fisheries directorate here in Nairobi, but it goes down to the regions, goes down to the counties, goes down to the sub-counties, and finally to the BMUs. So why are we doing this? At the same time, counties also have their own arrangement from the county to sub-county and to the BMUs. So by the end of the day, there's some kind of conflict. At the same time, when it comes to fisheries, one thing that we have not done well, if you look at other sectors, agriculture, look at livestock, there is a value chain that is recognized. In fisheries, this value chain is not there. We've been struggling quite a bit to do things at the landing beaches and stuff like that. But as at the moment, there is no fish. Fish stocks are down. So what we needed to have is an arrangement where we make sure that we restock the lake with fish. And there are many ways of how this can be done, either locally or properly by different arrangements. So such that when we're talking about a marketing authority that has products, we can't have a marketing authority that does not have anything to sell. So Madam Speaker, I think generally the bill is fine, apart from those areas that needs to be corrected or needs to be enhanced moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Beatrice Kemei, member for Kericho County.